This is Rise Fuel. Where justice isn't just a word, it's personal. Let's get into it. Asterisk. She stood at the edge of my bridge in those ridiculous heels, arms crossed like she was guarding the Queen's palace. This structure is unauthorized, she snapped, holding up a clipboard like it was some kind of holy scripture. I didn't say a word, just stared at the bridge I built with my own hands. The same bridge that gave my daughter safe access to the lake after her accident. I had permits, I had blueprints, I had blood in that wood. But Karen, she had a fancy title, HOA president. 2 days later it was gone, bulldozed, just vanished. They didn't even call me, didn't warn me, just came at dawn like thieves and flattened it while my daughter slept in her wheelchair, waiting to go fishing. I stood there staring at the broken pieces like I was watching someone tear pages out of my family album. One of the workers, probably feeling guilty, mumbled something about orders from the top, but I already knew who was behind it. Karen, the same Karen who built a luxury spa resort for her HOA friends just half a mile downstream. The one who tried to buy a piece of my land last year and got real sour when I refused. Now it all made sense. This wasn't about rules. This wasn't about safety. This was revenge. But what she didn't know was that the dam sitting upstream, the one controlling every drop that touched her precious resort, was built by my grandfather, and I held the keys. Asterisk. I waited, not for weeks, not even days, just long enough for her HOA to send me another smug letter, this time claiming I owed them $15,000 in environmental restoration fees for the bridge they destroyed. That was it. I drove up to the old steel shack that sat camouflaged in the trees, the one no one in the HOA even knew existed. Inside, thick chains held the dam levers in place, rusted but solid. I took out the key my grandfather had given me years ago, the one he told me to only use when they forget who this land belongs to. The padlock clicked open like it was waiting for this moment. Back in town, Karen was hosting some weekend ribbon-cutting ceremony. Champagne bottles popping, HOA board members shaking hands with developers. They had no idea that their entire $5 million resort, the lakeside cabanas, the infinity pool, the paddleboard rentals, all depended on the water I controlled. I twisted the main valve. Just a little dot at first. Nothing happened. But then, like a slow breath, the current shifted. The lake started to drain, not fast, but steady, purposeful. Water that once made her spa shimmer in brochures was now sliding silently back into the earth. By sunset, guests at the resort were complaining. The pool lost its lake-fed circulation. Fish started flopping in shallow mud patches. The docks tilted awkwardly, like lost furniture in an abandoned living room. Karen stormed to my property the next morning. "You can't do this," she shouted. "Hair a mess, designer sunglasses slipping off her nose. You're sabotaging public resources." I didn't even flinch. I handed her a single sheet of paper, original ownership records, water rights, hand-signed documents, my name, my land, my damn dot, and at the bottom, her signature from when she tried to buy it from me last year. "You knew," I said calmly, "and you thought I wouldn't fight back." She ripped the paper in half and threw it in the dirt. It didn't matter anymore, because her resort was already drying out, and her mask was starting to crack. Asterisk. The news picked it up within 48 hours. $5 million HOA spa facing mysterious water crisis. The headline read, "Local reporters camped outside the resort gates, whispering rumors about sabotage, drought, maybe even legal violations." Karen tried to play the victim on camera, crocodile tears and all. "We just want to bring peace and wellness to the community," she sniffled. "But someone is weaponizing water." Yeah, someone with legal ownership. While she whined to the press, I was busy, quietly pulling up the original engineering documents from my granddad's archive. Turns out, the HOA had accidentally built part of their luxury dock inside the boundary of my family's land, just enough to trigger a full-scale land violation. I didn't go to court. I didn't need to. I called the county inspector instead. One quick visit and the entire spa got flagged for unauthorized construction. Within 24 hours, the county issued a CS operations notice. The resort had to shut down every single lake-based service, the kayaks, the floating massage platforms, the geothermal pump. Karen's face went pale when the county official stapled that bright orange stop work sign onto her gate. She tried to argue, throwing legal jargon like confetti, but then her own HOA board turned on her. See, what she didn't tell anyone was that she took out a private loan in the HOA's name to fund part of that spa expansion. She was banking on the resort's profits to cover the payments, but without water, no guests. Without guests, no revenue. And now the board was looking at her like she'd just sunk their yacht. Asterisk. That night, I got a knock on my cabin door, not from Karen, from Jim, one of the original HOA board members. Vietnam vet, straight shooter, the kind of guy who rarely left his porch unless something was burning. He looked nervous, kept glancing over his shoulder. "She's trying to sell off part of the lakefront," he said quietly, illegally, to a private buyer from out of state. I raised an eyebrow. "The same part she destroyed your bridge for." That was it. No more waiting. I told Jim to gather the other board members, The ones who hadn't been fully poisoned by Karen's nonsense. I had everything they needed. Drone footage of the construction zone, emails she accidentally copied me in on, voice recordings of her threatening to fine my daughter for unauthorized fishing, even the surveillance clip of her ordering the bulldozer to take out my bridge before the vote even happened. We held the meeting at the town hall. Not secret, not subtle, public. I stood in front of the projector, hit play, and let the truth speak for itself. People gasped. A few HOA members cursed out loud. One woman even walked out in tears. Her retirement fund had been tied to the resort's success, and Karen, she sat in the corner, arms folded tight, jaw clenched, but the fear in her eyes. It was real now, not just embarrassment. Exposure. Jim stood up at the end and said, "I move for immediate removal of Karen Winters as HOA president, effective tonight." Unanimous vote. She didn't say a word. He just grabbed her bag and stormed out while someone from the local paper took photos. But here's the thing, ... She wasn't done yet, because the very next morning a sheriff's cruiser showed up on my property, and inside the passenger seat ... Karen, smiling asterisk I, walked out slow, hands visible, not saying a word, just locking eyes with her like we both knew this wasn't over. The deputy stepped out and said, "Sir, we've had a complaint about illegal dam tampering and water hoarding. Mind if we take a look around?" I didn't flinch. Got a warrant. He hesitated. Karen leaned toward him, whispering something behind a fake polite smile. That's when I pulled out my phone. I figured she'd try this. I said, opening the email I'd received just hours before from the state water board. I showed him the message, verified, stamped, confirmed. I had legal authority to control the dam's flow, backed by 3 decades of land rights and grandfather permissions. Not only that, I'd forwarded them documentation about the unauthorized resort project weeks ago. The board wasn't investigating me, they were investigating her. The deputy's eyebrows rose. "Is that true, ma'am?" Karen's smile vanished. She mumbled something, tried to pivot, but it was too late. The deputy asked her to step aside. 2 minutes later, he made a call. And when he hung up, he didn't look too pleased. "Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to come with me for further questioning. You're not under arrest, but failure to comply. I am the HOA president." She shrieked, hands flailing. "Not anymore," I said quietly. "They voted you out. You're just trespassing now." She tried to argue, but no one was listening anymore as the cruiser drove away, dust kicking up behind it. I looked out over the lake. Calm, quiet, and just enough water flowing again to keep nature alive, but not their luxury business. That afternoon, I rebuilt the first piece of my bridge, this time with my daughter by my side, holding the toolbox. "This place is ours," I told her, "and now no one could take it away." Weeks passed. The lake healed, slowly. The grass where her floating spa once hovered started turning green again. Birds came back. My daughter caught her first fish since the bridge was torn down, a small bass, but big enough to make her smile stretch for miles. But just when I thought the war was over, I got a letter, not a regular one, certified, official, from a law firm 3 counties away, hired by Karen. Apparently, before she was booted out, she was suing me for environmental sabotage, loss of business revenue, and emotional distress. The number, $2.3 million. I read it twice, then laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I'd seen this coming. Karen was predictable, arrogant, but the one thing she never understood was how deep my family's roots ran in this land. So I didn't panic. I called a friend, an old army buddy, now a water rights attorney, not just any lawyer, the kind that makes grown men cry on the stand. He owed me a favor from way back when we dragged each other through a flood zone in Missouri. We didn't just respond to the lawsuit. We countersued: defamation, property damage, illegal demolition, attempted land fraud. The court date was public, local. And on the morning of the hearing, guess who walked into the courtroom with her sunglasses, big hat, and no supporters in sight? Karen. The judge read the case file, page by page. Then he looked over the original deed, my surveillance footage, the land maps, and the signatures Karen had forged. Yes, forged. We found out during discovery that she had faked HOA approval for the demolition of my bridge. The digital timestamp didn't lie. The judge dropped the gavel hard. Case dismissed. Counterclaim stands. Defendant awarded full damages. Karen didn't even stay to hear the full verdict. She stood up and walked out, defeated. But the real winner wasn't money. It was that feeling when I walked back across my new bridge. Solid, wide handrails painted by my daughter. It was the quiet, the birds, the smell of pine. And knowing that no matter how high they build their walls, the truth always finds a way through the cracks. Only on Ricefield where power gets exposed, and the truth always wins. Hit that follow, cause the next twist ... is just around the corner. Months rolled by. Karen disappeared from town, gossip like smoke after a fire. Her resort was abandoned, a half-finished skeleton sitting awkwardly by the dry lake edge, like a monument to her greed. Vines crawled over cracked tiles, boards warped under the sun, and the silence, it was deafening. But something still didn't sit right with me. One evening I was walking the trail near the dam, checking the flow as usual. My daughter was a few steps behind me with her fishing rod when I noticed something strange: fresh tire tracks. not from a ranger or a county truck. These were wide, deep, and recent. I followed them down toward a hidden access road near the resort's backside, a path only landowners or surveyors knew existed. Then I saw it, a black SUV, parked, engine warm, windows tinted, and inside, a man in a suit, talking into a headset. I stayed back, watching. He stepped out, checked something on a tablet, then walked toward the fenced area that bordered the resort and the lake. He was measuring, scanning. It wasn't over. I waited until he drove off and noted the plates. They weren't local. That night, I made some calls, dug into recent county filings. What I found made my chest tighten. A new development permit, quietly submitted under a shell company. Same coordinates, same lake, different name. Karen might have vanished, but she'd sold the land to an out-of-state corporation, and worse, they weren't just planning a spa, they were planning to build a full-scale luxury water park fed directly by my dam. This wasn't over, it was just starting again, and this time, I was ready for war. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at those permit files. Karen was slick. She'd sold the land weeks before the lawsuit even ended. Probably had it in motion before her HOA board kicked her out. The buyer, Meridian Leisure Holdings. A corporate name so bland it practically screamed, "We hide dirty money." I made 2 calls the next morning. First, to the county zoning office to request a full public disclosure of all permits and environmental assessments tied to Meridian's plan. Second, to a retired journalist I knew from town, Martha. She owed me. I once pulled her son's Jeep out of a frozen ditch during a blizzard. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "Send me what you've got." Within a day, Martha's article hit local headlines. Corporate water grab. Mysterious company plans development on disputed lakebed. That was all it took. People started asking questions. County officials got nervous. The environmental board suddenly had time for inspections. But that wasn't enough. So I took a drive, past the trees, around the ridge to the one place I hadn't gone in years, the Veterans Memorial Hall. One knew a few old friends would be there. Guys who knew the law, who owned land, who hated outsiders bulldozing through small town property. We sat at a creaky table and laid out the maps, and by the time we finished, we had a coalition, 10 landowners, all with partial control of the lake's inflow. Turns out, Meridian thought they could just tap into my dam and our lake without a fight. They figured we'd roll over like Karen tried to make us do. Wrong. We filed an emergency injunction, freezing all construction, and to make things sweeter, one of my buddies had drone footage of Meridian's people starting excavation without final approval. Illegal, fine-worthy, jail-time-worthy, and then ... Martha struck again. Dam owner and local veterans moved to protect lake from out-of-state developer. The story spread like wildfire. By noon, it was trending. By sunset, national news outlets were calling me. And guess who I saw quietly driving back into town that night? Karen. Only this time, she wasn't smiling. Only on where truth has teeth. And the people bite back. Like, subscribe, because this war ain't over yet. Karen didn't come back alone. She brought 2 men with her, lawyers, or at least pretending to be. Black suits, black ties, black intentions. They walked into the county office like they owned it, demanding that the injunction be lifted. But the thing about small towns, we don't forget. By the time they reached the permit desk, 3 local reporters were already waiting, cameras on, mics hot. One of them asked, "Are you aware the lakebed you're building on is under shared veteran stewardship?" That line hit like a hammer. Karen froze. One of her lawyers muttered, "No comment," and shoved past. But the county clerk wasn't budging. She looked them dead in the eye and said, "Until we verify the environmental reports, boundary lines, and community impact statements, all development is halted. Period." Karen tried to protest, raised her voice, waved her hands, pointed fingers. Didn't matter. The town had already decided. A week later, Meridian Leisure Holdings quietly pulled out of the deal. No press release, no public apology, just an empty office and a 4-lease sign taped to the glass. And Karen, she lost everything: the spa, her reputation, her connections. Turns out, when her HOA board found out about her secret land deal, they filed fraud charges of their own, misusing HOA funds to bribe inspectors, fake paperwork, and push illegal demolitions. The state launched an official investigation. Last I heard, she was trying to sell handmade wellness soaps on Etsy. Meanwhile, the lake healed for real. We restored the old bridge completely, stained it deep oak brown, hung wind chimes that my daughter made herself. Families returned. Veterans brought their grandkids to fish. We even added a small wooden plaque at the end of the bridge for those who fought to protect land and still do. I didn't do interviews, didn't go viral. I just stood on my porch one evening, coffee in hand, watching the water flow like it always had. Peaceful, steady, because when you protect what's yours with truth, law, and a little grit, the land remembers. And the people who tried to take it, they always disappear in the end. This was Riseful, the channel that reminds you when power goes corrupt. The land fights back. Hit that follow, Share this story, and remember, never underestimate a man with a bridge and a plan.